Right. Welcome, everybody. This is the last portion of Module 2, Safe Together, challenging your perception. I hope you've learned a lot so far. We're going to wrap this up with RAS. And what RAS is it's our reticular activating system, our brain function that controls a lot of what we do. What we see depends mainly on what we're looking for. So basically, your RAS controls sleeping, waking, and attention. It's a very sophisticated information filter. It screens out anything unnecessary, allows you to focus on what you value, allows you to perceive threats, supports you to set goals. So you can consciously decide what your RAS should give attention to. This is how we get better. We're able to identify hazards, right? So to improve our risk assessment, which is what we're trying to do through Safe Together training and make it more dynamic, we need to make sure that we're turning off autopilot, right? We're switching off system 1 and implementing system 2, a more slow approach towards thinking, right? One way to do that is to use our RAS and train our RAS to look for certain hazards. So while we're conducting a risk analysis, we need to identify exactly what we're trying to find. So for example, we'll get into this group exercise, but here's how I would run this in person is we would go out into the warehouse and I would grab a group of 5, and each person out of the group of 5 would have one specific thing that their RAS is looking for, right? So person 1 would be everything safety. Person 2 would be flow of activities, moving equipment and parts. Person 3 would be hazardous conditions. Person 4 would be human behavior. Person 5 would be generalist view, everything related to safety. And what you're going to find out here is when everybody has their RAS trained or RAS focused on one certain thing, and you're not allowing your vision to get cloudy, you're hyper focused on one thing, you pick up a lot of hazards that you may have overlooked. You know, let me relate this to another way. So me being a safety professional, when I walk into a warehouse, my RAS is trained to look for safety hazards or compliance, right? I'm looking at fire extinguishers. I'm looking at fire exits. I'm looking at 5S. I'm looking at forklifts. I'm looking at racking. I'm looking at just a lot of regulations and compliance stuff, right? Whereas maybe someone from operations may be looking at quality. They may be looking at processes. So just our RAS and our experiences shift the way our RAS views, environments that we look into. Before I move on, right here, the reason they have a meerkat right here is meerkats look out for one another. So as far as RAS, when they come out of their hole, and normally there's a group of them, right? One would come out of their hole and look for predators and kind of scan the area using their RAS to look for potential threats. And then, one will go in the hole and then another will come out, right? They take turns actually, kind of taking patrol. So I thought that was very interesting. That is a way of them using their RAS. They are going out literally looking for threats. So if we did that group exercise, we would come back, we'd write notes. It's very interesting how all of that comes about. The person that's looking just for all things safety or the flow of activities, or another person looking for hazardous conditions. There's so many things that are listed that maybe that other person's like, man, I didn't even see that because I was so busy looking at human behavior. I didn't see a hazardous condition, right? And that just shows you how our RAS can impact on what we see. So it's a great model to use, you know, specifically for safety, but you can do it for anything in life. Make sure that your RAS is focused in on what you're looking for. So how can we increase our awareness to risk using our RAS out in the workplace? So zooming in on human factors, the human factor given as a stated cause in 50 to 80% of cases are inattention, judgment errors, lack of knowledge, fatigue, knee-jerk reactions, lack of rigor, misunderstandings, complacency is a big one, overconfidence, multitasking. So which are yours? Can you look back on a time where you had an incident and any of these bullet points here may have contributed to the cause of that incident? So here's another group exercise. Who would be the best multitasker? So if you're a great multitasker, this is a great exercise for you. Make it real easy. Typically what I do is I'll take a person, I'll ask one person to volunteer, and when that person volunteers, I'll say, count your ABCs, A through Z. And when you get to Z, raise your hand, and I'll have them on a timer. So they go through it, they do their ABCs, they raise their hand, I time them out. Let's just say they did their ABCs in 20 seconds. I would time it, right? And just to show multitasking and how much least effective that is I will give you the same task, ABCs, but I want you to do it differently this time. I want you to go A1, B2, C3, D4, so on and so forth with the sequence. I put them on a timer, and when they're multitasking, it's significantly longer than just saying their ABCs, right? Because it's harder on your brain to multitask. So it's a really fun exercise. Feel free to use that outside of work as well. I think it's pretty cool. So the latest research on cognitive neuroscience has shown that multitasking is a distraction. Think about using your cell phone while you're driving a vehicle. That's a huge distraction. Your eyes are not on the road. That idea that we can multitask is a complete myth. The human brain does not perform two tasks at the same time. It's very difficult to do. Very few people can do it. So the best practice here is focus on one thing at a time and then move on to the next task. You will have a lot better results. 98% cannot multitask and be productive. It reduces productivity up to 40% and can lead to unsafe acts. The risk assessment, stimulating autonomy, right? How is it done at your workplace? Are you involved in assessing risk, and how can you increase the impact of risk assessment? So here at AB, we definitely, when I do risk assessments, I bring in, for example, let's say I was doing a risk assessment for the warehouse. I'd bring in the delivery manager, the supervisors, the leads, and then also the operators doing it. We would look at the task at hand, and everybody has feedback. We're all collaborating, giving our feedback to ultimately have the best outcome, right? The more heads involved in the discussion, the more gaps that we're going to close. and just the better the product will be. So how can we connect this to your daily routine? Stop and be more conscious, right? Just to reiterate, use system 2 of thinking, slow down. Don't use system 1, which is fast brain. Use your system 2, slow down, think about what you're doing. And how do we improve our focus and widen our view? We apply RAS radar in the workplace, right? So if you're driving on the road, your RAS should be focused on the road, up ahead for potential hazards, right? That's defensive driving 101. You're going to scan the road ahead. Your RAS is going to be focused, directly in front of you, 40 yards ahead, and you're going to be scanning the road. You're going to be checking your rearview mirrors. Always leave yourself an out, right? So that's just a little bit of defensive driving, but you can see where your RAS plays a big impact on that. So as a safety leader, how can I increase my risk perception? After this module, I want you to take a few moments and record one action based off this module that you're going to do to increase your risk perception on the job. So that wraps up module 2 of Challenge Your Perception. And thank you for listening.